You got it figured out.
Okay. I'd like to call the Environmental Service Committee meeting to order at 1:03 p.m. We have confirmation of the agenda. Any additions to it that we don't? So can I get accept the agenda as it's presented? Walter and Steve. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. And then item 4.1, the regular meeting of the Environmental Service Committee minutes.
Oh,
You get a mover and a seconder to adopt those minutes. Doug and Dean. Down to item 5, business. We'll start with the third quarter drinking water report. Kevin.
Okay, so the third quarter drinking water report for the Mitchell drinking water system. We had 0 periods of non-compliance with legislation, regulations, or approvals. We had no reporting requirements to the Ministry of the Environment Skills Action Center during this quarter. Our microbiological samples are continued being tested by our accredited lab. We had no inorganic or organic parameters tested during this quarter. Our chemical test results for this quarter, as you can see, are still well within the limits set out. For scheduled operations maintenance summary, these are some of our bigger items. I'll just go through a little of them, a couple of them. The quarterly samples were taken. The distribution system dead ends were flushed. We replaced the pressure level transducer at D123. Landmark cleaned and inspected the reservoir at D123. It was disinfected and returned to normal operation. Graham Electric prepped D123 for the new generator. We exercised the distribution system valves. The water service for 140 Huron Road was tested and connected to the distribution system. McCain Ready Mix hooked up the temporary main on Henry Street. McCain Ready Mix cut and capped Henry Street to start construction. Sugar and Plumbing installed the backflow device at D123. There was a new service tap for 188 Napier Street. The new water main on Virginia Street was tested and connected to the distribution system. A couple of fire hydrants in town were painted. And Hannah and Hamilton tapped new services on Nelson Street. They also installed the new hydrant and valve for that project. Graham Electric and Schneider Rep resolved the issue with the VFDs at Distribution System Center 4. Unscheduled operations maintenance, a curb stop at 149 Arthur Street was replaced. We had no main breaks during this quarter. Calibration summary, all of our instruments were calibrated according to their schedule, as you can see. Environmental/operating problems. With the Rogers outage that happened at the beginning of the quarter, operators were unable to receive alarms as the municipality uses Rogers. The alarm program was changed to call out to personal phones as the operators use Bell's network. A long-term solution to this has yet to be implemented. High lift 1 angle control valve stopped working. This is to be removed during the upcoming months. And SCADA data was missing some data points routinely. The SCADA contractor resolved the issue. Consumer drinking water complaints. On July 4th, a resident on St. David Street contacted Environmental Services regarding discolored water. Staff directed the resident to continue flushing the line until it was clear. The resident called back saying that the water was significantly better. On August 22nd, a resident on St. George Street contacted Environmental Services stating that they had just moved to the area and were experiencing low water pressure. A plumber recommended the resident contact the municipality to see if the curb stop was open all the way. Staff checked the curb stop and it was open. When staff contacted the resident, they said the water pressure has increased. September 8th, a resident on Thames Ave contacted Town Hall and stated that they had low water pressure after nearby construction began. Staff contacted the resident and informed them that the construction would not have any impact on the water pressure, but there could be some sediment in their service line and recommended that a plumber be contacted. On September 13th, a resident on Coburg Street contacted Environmental Services saying that they had discolored water and was wondering if there was anything going on that may have caused it. Dead ends were being flushed and ND Walt was flushed previous day. ND Walt is down the road. Staff informed the resident that the cause may have been from the flushing and recommended they continue to flush the lines. Review of infrastructure. All of our big infrastructure was reviewed, inspected and reviewed. Valves exercised. High lift pumps, well pumps inspected, the generators inspected and ran for monthly testing, the well depths and turbidity taken, the Win 911 alarm system was tested, and the reservoir hatches and screens were inspected. That is all.
Any questions for Kevin?
I have a dumb question. Gotta find it first. It's in the start of your report. And I'm sure I know what it is, and I've likely asked you before. VFD.
Variable frequency drive. It controls the speed of the motor.
Yeah, I know what a variable frequency drive is. I just didn't know that
The acronym?
VFD was it. Okay, no, that's fine.
No other questions? Can I have a mover and a seconder for Steve? Doug? All in favor? Carried. Next is the third quarter wastewater report.
Third quarter wastewater report for the Mitchell wastewater treatment facility. During the third quarter, we had no periods of non-compliance with our ECA, and we had nothing to report to the ministry. For our operations, as you can see, our flows are relatively average. Nothing significant there. Our loading is the same. As you can see, again, it changes significantly between the plant loading and when Sofina, you calculate that in. So for the month of September, we were significantly high. For average effluent concentration, despite those high numbers, our plant continues to operate according to our limits and objectives. As you can see, all the parameters are well within what they need to be. And same with our loading, we are well below what we are allowed to be for all of the parameters. As you can see, our utilities, our water usage is down in the third quarter, and our alum usage is up just a little bit. Again, we are still waiting on our SCADA contract to hook up our hydrometer. So if you go to the graph, you can see the hydro is empty, and then you can just compare the alum usage over the last 4 quarters. Effluent monitoring reporting, weekly compliance samples are sent to accredited commercial lab for analysis. Operators continue to do in-house analysis themselves. For sludge haulage, we had some sludge hauled this quarter. Those are the numbers there, as you can see. For operations and maintenance summary, operators continue to perform routine operation maintenance at the Mitchell wastewater treatment plant and both the pumping stations. Some of the highlights are UV system was cleaned and inspected, monthly and quarterly sludge samples taken, inspected the grit vortex, flushed out the auto sampler lines, blower filters inspected and changed as needed, clean bar screens inspected, level transducers at pump stations. inspected clarifier motor and gearbox, inspected return pumps and sludge pumps, exercised valves at the wastewater treatment plant, James Street and Herbert Street pumping station, cleaned and inspected the Allen board and pumps. The RAS pumps were inspected. DG compressed air performed the quarterly maintenance on the filter compressors. The digesters were emptied and the large digester was cleaned and inspected. Winches for the decant arms at the wastewater treatment plant were replaced, and Bram Electric was on site to install lights at the wastewater treatment plant. For unscheduled operations and maintenance, the generator at the wastewater treatment plant had a low coolant level alarm. Operators checked the coolant. Coolant was adequate. Summers generator was contacted and replaced the coolant sensor. Filter 2 at the wastewater treatment plant reject line was blocked. The filter was drained and the block is removed. And the compressors fuses blew. Bram Electric upgraded the compressor panel to handle the inrush from the compressor starting. Safety, there was no lost time due to injury during this quarter. Environmental operating problems. With the Rogers outage, operators were unable to receive alarms as the municipality used Rogers. The alarm program was changed to call out to our personal phones as operators are on Bell's network. A long-term solution has yet to be implemented. Wastewater complaints, there were none during this quarter. Review of infrastructure, pumps at Herbert Street, James Street were inspected, generators inspected, the blowers were inspected, the alarm system was tested, clarifiers inspected, the grid vortex was inspected and greased. Upcoming events, digesters will be emptied and inspected. Sludge will be hauled from the sludge storage cell, and sand washers for filter 5 will be replaced. That is all.
Any questions?
I guess I had one question. Following the inspections, was there, at the pumping stations, was there anything observed that would have to be dealt with? Like, I'm thinking in terms of the budget for 2023, was there anything significant there that was discovered that?
Yes, Herbert Street has a few things and it's already in place for some of this budget, no?
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there wasn't anything observed that wasn't out of the ordinary, I guess is the question, in terms of work that needed to be done or costs that hadn't been already foreseen or.
No, the issues at Herbert Street have been known for a while and have been being planned out for quite some time.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Kevin.
I'm assuming that hydro bill is just they're estimating.
No,
Or they're
Not that high, not
No.
that high.
not that.
this is
regular.
our hydro meter, so we can keep track of our own. Erie Thames is still fully functioning.
It's two separate, yeah.
Yeah, well, we call ours a power monitoring system. So it's so it's inside, we have access to.
Any other questions? I have a mover and seconder then for the wastewater report. Walter
Second.
and Dean. All in favor? Carried. 5.3, environmental service report.
Good afternoon. Drinking water operations. The Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks Safe Drinking Water Branch Inspector conducted a detailed inspection of the Mitchell drinking water system on September 19th, 2022. Staff provided a tour, documentation, and records to the inspector. The final report will be issued on October 17th, 2022. Actually, it's going to be issued later on this afternoon. The draft report has identified 2 non-conformance with legislative requirements and a best management practice. These findings are already in the process of being addressed. The system schematics and water main inventory have been sent out to our engineering consultants for updates. The reporting presentation best management practice is under review with our SCADA consultant and will be implemented depending on program costs. Just rather than go through his blurb, So we have until December 31st to provide a new copy of the Mitchell Drinking Water Main Inventory, which is a CAD rendered schematic of the distribution system and all of that, the municipal mains within the drinking water, or the Mitchell drinking water system. Our copy is 2 years old. Legislation says that if it's modified, then it has to be updated on an annual basis. It's part of this schematic is an ongoing project. We've been working with it for a couple of years because it's CAD based or an AutoCAD based document, and we're working on creating a water main flushing program using that same schematic. We have to make sure that everything on there is extremely accurate, so that once we implement the water main flushing program, we're not sending dirty water somewhere we should. But again, it's in the hands of our drinking water consulting engineers, and they're aware of it and they're addressing it. The second non-compliance item or non-conformance, it's legislative non-compliance. It's not operational. It has a couple of schematics of the actual chemical dosing systems within the 2 distribution centers in town. Both of the old schematics still contain reference to the old Lyox systems, which no longer exist. So again, our drinking water engineering consultants are aware of this. We've provided them with updates, going to provide us with official schematics, and will be well within the time period that the inspectors provided us to respond. The best management practice is representative of the way that the inspectors want to see data presented to them. This is entirely up to us. We can make things easy for him by following his suggestion, as long as it doesn't cost us too much. I've been in contact with our state consultant, and he's reviewing their request and is going to come back to me with the price. Again, it's not a matter of non-compliance. It's just something to make reviewing the data a simple thing. Next item is the ICIP Phase 2 Greenstream project. This project is proceeding. The generator pad has been poured. The new primary power lines have been trenched in and run up the new pole. The new generator has been placed and cable connections made. The new high lift pump has been ordered. The well house electrical components are the next items. The next one is scheduled to be replaced with modern equipment. This will allow the power feed to be rerouted from the new primary feed. Distribution Center 1, 2, 3 reservoir cleaning has been completed. The Reservoir Distribution Center 4 has been scheduled for October 20th, and the remote operated vehicle inspection of the elevated storage tank on Clark Street has been scheduled for October 21st. These dates have been confirmed by the contractor. Wastewater, did the chair want me to stop in between?
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Wastewater operations, third quarter 2022 submissions to the effluent regulatory reporting information system have been completed. Environmental Services continues to conduct surveillance monitoring of waste streams from large industrial users. The current sludge hauling volume total this year is 6,301 cubic meters. To ensure there's enough room for winter storage, more sludge will need to be removed. I believe that was completed last week, Friday, and An audit of actual costs associated with excess loading at the sewage plant is being conducted. Preliminary findings indicate excess loading charges have not kept pace with expenses incurred while treating increased loading from industrial users. Capital costs for necessary equipment updates and increased sludge disposal costs have been the two largest expenses in the last 5-year period. The preliminary report has been sent to the municipality's engineering consultants for review. That's an ongoing item. Landfill operations. The Ministry of the Environment conducted an inspection of the closed Logan landfill site. The report has not been issued as of this date. The inspector is waiting on comments from the ministry's Hydro G group, but there were some findings which will need to be addressed. The site fencing along the north, east, and west perimeters of the landfill site are in very poor condition. There is a broken groundwater monitoring well housing in the northeast corner of the property that needs to be repaired. And because of chloride migration from the site, the matter of CAS land acquisition along the south border of the landfill was also brought up. Each of these findings will be made into an action item in the final inspection report. Staff have reached out to a fencing contractor to investigate the cost of repairing the fence line. Staff has also reached out to arrange repair of the groundwater monitoring well housing, and staff is looking for direction, opening negotiations with the affected landowner for the securing of CAS lands on the southern border. Weekly and monthly inspections of landfills of all landfill sites have been completed up to the date of October 14th, 2022. Household hazardous materials, the depot was last serviced on September 7th, 2022. Reporting requirements to the Product Care Association have been completed up to the September service date. E-waste, there are currently bins from 2 service providers located at the landfill. One is for data containing devices such as computers, tablets, and mobile phones, which may contain the original owner's information if they've not taken the suggested precaution to wipe the data from the device. The other bin is for the remaining electronic devices, televisions, disc players, and peripherals. I guess I could have done a better job of explaining that. Our one service provider wipes any data containing devices prior to it being processed. So it gets dumped out onto a processing table and the data devices get run through a magnet. So that information is essentially rendered useless before the devices are further processed. Automotive materials have been picked up by our regular service providers. This includes automotive plastic containers and used oil and antifreeze products. Landfill scale computer continues to see minor internet outages, which occur mostly on Saturdays. The surveillance cameras at the landfill site have been assigned static IP addresses. There remain some issues with the wireless bridges, failing to find the network host, but a quick reset fixes those issues. The industrial landfill continues to receive excess soil products from the Georgina Street reconstruction. There is a noticeable change in quality of the water discharging to the stormwater management pond now that the majority of that concrete product has been covered with dirt and clay. Inspections of the other closed landfills sites are conducted on a monthly basis. Hibbert and Fullerton sites are in good condition and we are good enough for environmental services. The Blue Water Recycling Association continues to keep the municipality updated on the transition of the association municipalities Blue Box program to the new extended producer responsibility framework. Blue Water's letter to Circular Materials expressing interest in our representative as being our representative has been accepted. I don't know if there's an outcome yet, but the letter is accepted. The drinking water quality management system. The annual drinking water quality management control audit was completed in September. The annual risk management review is scheduled for October. The annual management review needs to be scheduled. You kind of have to determine who will attend, old council and new council members. I'd like to sneak it in to ensure that our current representatives are who are named. Fix that. With the change in council, the DWQMS endorsement will have to be updated. And staff have been in contact with Washington Clean Water Center to provide standard of care training for council and members of staff after the election. It'll probably be in the new year. January, February.
Where do we want to start with?
Well, let's start with the DWQMS and find out. I have the current council members participating.
That's for the manager's review.
That's from the
Yeah.
manager. Yes.
Do you want it?
Probably before November 15th, because November 15th will be the date that new council is.
Yeah. And it only involves, no,
Yeah, Walter, Mike, and the chair.
you don't have to worry. It's just,
Yeah, whenever you can schedule it.
I'll make myself, like, pretty much, as long as you can do it within the next 2 weeks. Before the first of November.
Do you go on vacation?
I go on vacation after the 14th, but
Okay.
I'm gonna be-
She wants a couple of weeks grace in case she comes down with something.
I don't want to come in contact with anybody. It's probably
Just gonna wear a big plastic bag or.
a big plastic bag.
Just throw out a date and we'll see if it'll work or not.
Okay.
Or a couple days.
I have a. Yeah, I'm just thinking we need to get our risk assessment review done for that. We were supposed to do that yesterday, but I
Somebody
got
was
pushed.
away.
We have the risk assessment review scheduled for October 25th. Would you guys prefer Wednesday? Do you normally do those meetings on a Wednesday or? Like,
Is it okay?
I was gonna say, would the October 28th work?
I'm fine. I mean,
Friday.
that's probably,
I don't have anything on.
I don't have anything that's work.
Second. What about the Thursday?
It's on the 28th. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong numbers.
Oh, sorry. 27th then?
I'm fine. 27.
Councilman, alternate, okay, well, 27.
27.
Yay.
All right, so we'll do it October 27th.
And the next item is
I'm gonna say 1 o'clock.
Sorry.
who's got me an in for the DeBlock there?
They're great people. They're Great people.
I don't know that they are.
Dean.
I don't. I've
So
never
I
met
was
Take your beans there?
So this is regarding the Cas lands and of course Logan landfill. So the last time we met with the property owner to the south of Logan landfill, at that point in time, they were way interested in talking to us regarding the CAS lands or in the future. However, the ministry is now asking us to revisit that. So we will need to talk to that property owner once again and see if we could once again try to obtain CAS lands on their lands. So
Randy,
Is it just Randy or is it?
and maybe him and his boys now maybe own that together. Barbie
It'll
Farms.
be Randy and Tony that you're dealing with, but Randy would take the lead on the issue, I would think.
the old man's not around anymore.
Well, Henry's still.
He has a lot of control over that, trust
Well,
me.
He didn't like them last time.
Randy would be taking the lead in
Yeah.
the discussions, is I guess what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it would be Henry and Randy's son Tony. That's would be the three principals, I would think. I don't know how they have their business affairs set up on the farming side of it. Those would be the three individuals.
Is there a way to get in there? I have no problem going and discussing with them, or opening discussions.
Yeah.
Is there a way, I just don't want to show up on the doorstep and say, hey, I'm Richmond town. I'd like to let them know I'm actually coming. And perhaps-
Would you like me to give them a heads up, or
Sure.
I can do that
I
on
would
your
appreciate
behalf?
that.
And then probably we'll have to wait for a new council to be sworn in and all that, because then we need to have
Yep.
monies available to us that aren't currently budgeted for as part of this negotiation.
Well, the new council would have to be briefed.
Yep.
And brought up to speed first as a committee of the whole, or however way we do it, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Mike, it would be appropriate for the new council to be the ones that have to address the issue.
We can't spend money right now.
So if they say, no way, goodbye, nice seeing you.
Then you will have to notify the Ministry of Environment.
Yeah.
That's what we did last time. And as long as they feel that you've had good faith in trying to acquire those lands, it might give you some leniency. If not, and they demand that you get them, then the next only available option for us is to expropriate.
Yeah, okay, that's what I wanted to know, the order of the answer, because we went through that with Dave Randall.
Yes,
And I just wondered, you know, like, and you might as well be upfront with the blocks too, and say like, okay, we'll report to the ministry that you're not interested. But if they are adamant that this has to happen, we'll be back.
yes.
We own 100 acres there? 25 and 50?
41 hectares. Our land ownership, I
That's
just,
100 acres.
through you, through the chair, I put our ownership on the screen. So it's not being projected with the, meetings, but it has kind of information on it that we should only see. So municipality owns this block. Municipality owned, that block is another owner. We have this block. And again, 10 hectares, about 10 hectares, maybe, yeah, about 10. And this one over here is about 10. So we have about 30 hectares there. If I'm not
And where's the
mistaken,
money?
and this is the one we're talking about, we need to get some of
Oh,
this.
Yes.
Between 44 and 46.
Yeah, and if you're wondering where we are, I'll just back over. That's first line 44. And 23.
So Councillor Trentowski can kindly reach out to the blocks and ask them or notify them that we will be reaching out to them
Yeah,
in due time.
I'll give them the heads up and I'll confirm to this committee when I make that contact. Yep, I'll go from there. So when the ministry, is there an expected timeline when the ministry will have completed their report and submit it to us?
I'm anticipating it within the next 3 weeks.
Okay, so, all right, sometime early next month is when we can expect to see it. So then we would have that report. We would communicate that report to the next term of council as part of our
Yes.
overall discussion. Okay, good.
Anything else? So you need a recommendation for that direction, or are you just gonna take it as direction?
I'm just gonna take it as
direction. Direction.
I have a whimsical question for Rich. Twice in there, you said that we don't have any bell phones. Should we, as a municipality, have a couple? I know it affected everybody because we're all Rogers, right? Should we have a couple bell lines, cell phones? Again, it's in this report twice that we couldn't communicate. Do we think it'll never happen again? We know it will happen again, maybe. Like I'm,
At least, yeah, it would, actually wouldn't hurt to have, it wouldn't hurt.
So I can add too that we're exploring, first of all, they're exploring options for auto synchronization when you go from one to the other. I don't know how far away that is. But we do, the interim option we could pursue is that we, up until this point, haven't had a policy for personal cell phones and municipal use. Any of our folks that have a municipal cell phone often will carry two. It's a bit extraordinary to buy a new account for someone that's maybe using a current emergency, but we've located a policy and we're working on a policy. I haven't even had a chance to report this to senior leadership team, so you're hearing it first. We've located a policy for how you can pay, maybe $10 or $20 a month towards someone's personal cell phone use for them using that cell phone on occasion for work-related activities. There's all kinds of taxation implications. I think we're through the taxation implications and we have it pretty clear. So that would be an option. You just identify a couple of folks that have Bell phones for their personal, and we put them on that policy that in emergencies, they're going to get those calls. And for that layer, it'd be like $10 a month. Highly unlikely use, and heavy use would be about $20 a month. If we bought the phone ourselves and gave it out, it would be around $40 a month with the equipment charge. So we can look at those options and mitigate our risk.
Well, we do have Bell landlines at the sewage plant.
Yeah.
So time, because that's what's used to dial out to the on-call. So, we can look into software that would allow us to. We can dial out, it's receipt. If your network's down, you're not going to receive those. You're not going to receive those calls. And that's the stick. Yeah, that's the sticky part. Having a pay-as-you-go Bell lines floating around at the shop so that that phone line has something to contact. Especially since it isn't going to see that much use. Run off very bare minimum, and that might be a little more equitable than paying for somebody's phone, contributing to somebody's phone.
I would agree with that, Rich, because what happens if, it's an outside chance, but if there's two employees that have Bell lines and they happen to be gone, you're in the same position.
And I'm just raising it that we have a number of options. I think what you did is you've expressed your concern that we should be mitigating that risk. I think we can explore options. I consider this to be operational. I think that the concern about what could happen is certainly a policy concern for this committee, but I think it's up to us operationally to solve it.
I know that, not the last time, but the first time that Rogers went down, it affects the flooding notifications in the conservation. And they did something, but I can't tell you off them what they actually did, but it wasn't switching the Bell or switching. So there's notifications would still come through. I could find out. I actually have a meeting tonight, but they actually did pass that information along, but Yeah, they had no way of monitoring.
I think we
Water
went to the
levels.
email system.
I'm not sure what they did, but then what's totally different than relying on that. So,
Your email still, your phone still worked on text if you were wireless. Like this phone still worked that time. If I was on the wireless internet, it still worked, but the telephone didn't work.
Yeah, but
you still have
we're not
Wi-
on wireless internet all the time.
No, not all the
No.
time.
All the time, but
You'd go to Tim Hortons and you would get ding, 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 because those texts came through, but they
Yeah.
wouldn't come through at my store, because I'm hardline.
So again, I think, we hear
I
the
think
policy
there's-
concern. I think it's an operational thing for us to sort out.
Mhm.
anything else? Any other questions? All right, yes, I need a recommendation or a mover and a seconder then for the. I did these all separately, but I guess I could. Environmental service report, mover and seconder for the third quarter report. Doug? Dean, all in favor? Carried. So new business.
so every other year, we look at our automated or co-collection garbage bin costs. We deferred it last year just because of what was going on with COVID and everything. So we started our automated bin system back in 2012, and our first adjustments and prices were not until 2016. Then we adjusted them in 2018 and 2020. And then once again, we need to review our cost of our waste collection bins. You can see in the analysis what Blue Water Recycling has their increase in costs over the last 3 years. Please note that 2023 is an estimate by Francis from Blue Water, and it's not been finalized. That will not be finalized until their board meets at the end of November. So we'll know for sure first week in December what our true rates are, but that's what he has advised me on using for an increase in costs. So once again, I compared our bin costs with other municipalities within this area and around this area that are using Blue Water. And you can see within the costs broken out between small, medium, large bins, that we are the lowest cost per bins within the adjacent municipalities. And we are even well below the average cost of the bins. So they should be increased to reflect the increased costs. I given you the quantity bin sizes and how they're broken out currently. So in 2022, we currently have 2526 small, 442 people going to medium, and 412 large. As you can see, because of the way we were increasing the bin fees, people and families that are moving into Westford or existing families have been deciding to change over. And the numbers from small have been decreasing, and medium and larges have been increasing. So that is going to be reflected in my proposed rate increases. So my proposed rate increases, our current rates are 101 for small. I propose $110, which is a $9 increase. And then additional $10 increments on top of the 9 for the medium and large, and which better reflects the sizing and the volumes, but it also promotes people to divert from our landfill. So I believe we now have the capabilities of adjusting the rate fees for all these individuals a lot easier than what we did in the past. And that's why we just did kind of a blank over the $5 or $10 over all the bins, where it should have been adjusted probably back in 2020 on an increment basis. So with the financial analysis done, you can see our projected revenues and all that for our 2022 versus 2023. And with the increases, the financial implications, if this was approved, it would be $43,080 positive on our financial, our revenues, which will cover the 39,047 over the last 3 years of the expenses. So that is pretty close to a break even by doing that. We're still well below the averages. So my recommendation to council, or to this committee to recommend to council, is to cover our costs. However, because of the financial situation that we're potentially in with the municipality, and we are below the averages of what everyone else is using, if you want to decrease our requisition, therefore decrease our amount of taxes being raised, you could choose a different number than what I have proposed. That is up to this committee to recommend to council. Is there any questions? So I guess the big question is does this committee like what I proposed, or you wish to adjust those increments or increases?
Seems reasonable.
Price of everything is going up, no doubt about it. Yeah,
So this is just to cover our costs over our last 3 years increases, or potentially next year's increase too.
And it's a bit better than the blanket.
Yes.
value over
Yeah.
three.
Well, it promotes, going to the small, right? And plus if you break it out per gallon or size too, it's still feasible.
We're still below the average.
$2.
That's what I just want you guys to be fully aware of, like, the choice is up to you. Right? We're still well below the average, but I ran a few scenarios and if I increase them even to the averages, I think the additional, the increase in revenue was close to 25,000 or 30,000, which is close to, I'm not even going to guess right now, but it probably around 0.4% is what you'd be saving on the requisition at those dollar values, if you want to talk percentages and dollar values. Because I think 90,000 or 80,000 now is our 1%.
Yeah, and I think what Mike's saying to you is that if we, just to be clear, that if we take 150,000 a year on a levy, which is raised through taxes, and if you want to move more of that over to user fees, because we've got this way of tracking who's using it, which is always a nice way to do your, that's a great way to match up revenue to expenses. You can increase it by more and get closer to the average. And if this committee gives some direction, Mike could probably bring proposals to council.
I'm fine recommending what Mike has
Yeah,
to bring to council to vote on.
somebody wants to second that? Steve? Any other discussion? All in favor of that? Carried. That's it.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So it's in regards to, the first item is in regards to the industrial landfill. We've stopped accepting waste products there. We've put a bunch of solar and clay on top of the waste product. I was in touch with our landfill consultants today, and we're going to get a budget to initiate permanent landfill closure. So that will be a budget item for 2023 is to provide the ministry with a closure plan. Closure plan has to be issued 2 years before ultimate closure of the landfill site. And I've also asked that they provide a updated landfill liability estimate for both the industrial and domestic. Those are two things that are generally done every couple of years for the finance department. With the cover that we've put on so far, we anticipate, or they anticipate that there'll be a significant decrease in the actual liability associated with the industrial landfill since we've taken steps that we've taken so far to start capping it.
Just going to speak on that. I'm not sure if any of council members or committee members have actually read our landfill liability report. But as part of that report, it tells us about the cost of actually physically closing our landfills too. So the cost associated with closing the Mitchell Industrial Landfill was quite significant. And just by doing what we're doing with using the construction products and keeping it, reducing our reconstruction costs, and then using that material to cap our landfill, it's significant savings to the municipality. Instead of say $200,000 to haul in filled material, we're using what's currently here. So at basically very minimal cost to the municipality in order to cap this. So you should be seeing the next report, you'll see a decrease in our liability and also the costs associated with doing the closures.
So what impact has it had on the people that were using it? Dungeons or not dungeons, but
Middle Precast and Nexum, they found other locations to dispose of there.
all right, so it's not going to have an impact on them.
No.
So where does it go then? I'm just curious.
Somewhere down London.
Overworld.
Greenfield.
Might be a little chunky for it.
Yeah. They were the only ones that the last that were using it. weren't
Yeah,
I don't know if it's not going to try recycling and they're busting it up.
they? Well, that's fine. It's not going to have a negative impact on any of our industries.
Second item is the ongoing discussions with a certain wastewater user. We have had several meetings with them. They were offered a relief on punitive charges should they comply with certain requirements. That was 2 weeks ago.
reporting requirements.
Reporting requirements, and they haven't reported. They haven't done anything. I find it difficult to provide them with any further faith in their negotiations with us. This is the second time for sure that they've made an offer, made a promise to provide something, and it's fallen short. I honestly believe that we have to stick to the agreement and we either force them into arbitration.
I just want to stop and say this is a closed session item. We shouldn't offer any more details to this session in open. So this is a matter of closed session. And I'd ask the chair, either if you want this update closed, I think it's premature, but it should be. We don't have a closed schedule, and there's an
We're not
update for
scheduled.
council coming in closed on November 7th, and this should be there.
I guess we'll stop it at this point. Have it moved into a closed session.
I would recommend that we include it in the closed session update, which will be a scheduled closed session for November 7th. So council, just the next time council is expecting to hear back from us in closed session on this matter.
All right. Nothing. There's nothing else. I'd just like to say this is my last environmental service committee meeting, what's the full committee, so thanks to for sitting at the table for all you do and the headaches you put up with. It's been an interesting and enjoyable last 8 years. So all the best. Hopefully the situations that we have come up against right now can get resolved quickly. And for the other 4 members of sitting here, all the best in the campaigning. And so say,
It's nice working with you. All the best in your future endeavors.
Thanks.
Thanks for being chair for
8 years.
8 years.
8 years.
I hate putting numbers on things. We're getting old.
It rolls off the tongue real easy when you say.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl, for your,
Yeah.
for your participation, and it's much appreciated, and good luck to you in your future endeavors as well. We wish you all.
Hey.
Thank
Next
you, Cheryl.
meeting. Thank you. Next meeting, I guess, will be January.
Yeah.
That's
we'll do
the
management.
management meeting, but this is for the next environmental
Yeah.
service committee meeting.
Yes, there are no more scheduled for the remainder of the year.
No, it'll be into January of next year. So nothing further than, and motion to adjourn the meeting. at 2 o'clock. Steve and Doug, all in favor? Carried.